we'll go on discussing allophones of plosives. In the last presentation, we studied that voiceless plosives p, t, k are fully aspirated when they occur initially in a stressed syllable, not necessarily at the beginning of a word, but the plosives have to be the first element in the stressed syllable. Let's read the following examples. Pat took Tom's car. Well, we can transcribe this in two different ways. In the first case, we are doing a broad or phonological transcription because we are just showing the phonemes, which we said are abstract. We're thinking phonemes. These are the segments you've got in your alphabet. And we use slanted bars to include the phonemes. But when you say it, when you pronounce it, you realize, in this case, the voiceless plosives in a special way. Let's concentrate on the voiceless plosives initially in stressed syllables. P, t, t, and k. When you pronounce this, you aspirate them. You say, Pat took Tom's car. That's how you speak. So, when you show the realization of that phoneme, you are showing the allophone that corresponds to that phoneme. So, you are writing a different kind of transcription. It's a narrow or allophonic transcription because you are showing the different realizations of phonemes. You are showing the allophones. You are showing details. And you don't use slanted bars. In this case, the notation is different. You use brackets. Pat took Tom's car. What happens when these aspirated voiceless plosives are followed by the consonants wa, ya, l, and as in quiet, pure, play, pray? Well, these consonants lose their voice. They become devoiced because of the aspiration of the preceding voiceless plosive. Let's read some examples. Play, pew, pray. Right, so the first plosive is fully aspirated because it occurs initially in a stressed syllable, and we use brackets to show the allophone, and we use this special diacritic for aspiration, which is a very little h, which we raise there. And then to show that the following consonants are devoiced, we use this little circle underneath. Play, pew, pray, 12, tune, try, quiet, cute, clean, cry. Now in Spanish, we said we don't aspirate the plosives. If we don't aspirate the voiceless plosives, then these sounds are not devoiced. So, while in English we say plan, in Spanish we say plan. The lateral is voiced because the p is not aspirated. So in Spanish we say plan, precio, voiced, tren, trampa, fully voiced, claro, crema. While in English, these voiceless plosives are fully aspirated, so we devoice the following consonants and we say plan, price, train, tramp, clear, cream. What happens when voiceless plosives occur in unstressed syllables? Well, they are not aspirated, so we produce the unaspirated allophone of the plosive. For example, combine, combine, combine. Let's analyze this voiceless plosive. Combine. This occurs initially in the syllable, but the syllable is not stressed. So we don't aspirate the plosive. We don't say combine. We say combine. We say courageous. We don't aspirate it because it occurs in a weak syllable. Computer, computer. So the k is not aspirated because it occurs in a weak syllable, while the p is the first element in a stressed syllable. Pew. So that's the one we aspirate, you see? Computer, while t occurs in a weak syllable and it's not aspirated. Now, what diacritic do we use? Well, we don't use any. We just leave it as it is, like that. And then you have to explain that in those contexts, they are unaspirated because they occur in weak syllables, as in combine, courageous, and then come, and then t. Also, they are unaspirated when they are preceded by s. Why? Because we said that the voiceless plosives are fully aspirated when they occur initially in the syllable. Well, if they are preceded by s, they are not the first elements any longer because they are preceded by another sound. So, when you have these combinations, these clusters, for example, sp, st, sk, you don't aspirate them. You say special. You don't say special. You say special, street, stupid, downstairs, square, squirrel, excuse. When they are preceded by s, they are not aspirated, and there's no diacritic for that. But if you are showing allophones, remember to use square brackets. So, plosives can be aspirated or unaspirated, and that applies to voiceless plosives. Now, what happens when voiceless plosives and voiced plosives as well are not released? They are not released because the air doesn't come out. We keep the air. And this happens when we have clusters of two consecutive plosives or a plosive plus an affricate. For example, he looked round. He looked. We've got there a cluster of two plosives. We don't release the air in k, we release it in t. We say looked. We keep the air in k. So we say that for k, we produce the unreleased allophone. And for the t, we produce the released allophone because we have to let the air go out. We say looked, stopped. There in p, we don't release the air, and we finally release it there in t, stopped. So, if we do this kind of transcription, we are doing a broad phonological transcription. If we show that the first plosive is unreleased, first of all we use brackets, and we use diacritics for that, which is that little corner after the unreleased allophone. So looked, stopped. Or when we have a plosive plus an affricate, for example, stop chatting, stop, we keep the air, chatting. So this would be broad and this would be narrow, phonetic or allophonic. Sometimes we've got three plosives together, as in he looked puzzled. Well, we've got three plosives together. Usually we unrelease the first two. He looked puzzled. And we finally release the air in the third one. And in this case, in this context, we aspirate it because the p occurs initially in a stressed syllable. He looked puzzled. So, if we want to show the allophones, we'll use brackets, and then the first two will be unreleased. keep the air here, and we finally release it here with aspiration. And the same occurs when there are two plosives plus an affricate. He stopped chatting. So we unrelease the first two and we release the air in the affricate. And some people will elide or suppress the middle plosive. What happens when voiced or voiceless plosives are followed by the lateral? This lateral is called like that because when you articulate it, the air goes out on one or both sides of the tongue. So when the plosives are followed by the lateral, the air goes out laterally. For example, at least we had a little table in the middle to put the plates. Let's analyze the plosives followed by the lateral. At least. There we've got a plosive t followed by the lateral, not within the word, at word boundary, that is to say, between words. At least, at least. So the air goes out laterally because of the lateral. Little, the air goes out laterally. So we say that the plosive is released laterally. Table, middle, plates. Now, if we go deep into this, we can identify more allophones. For example, table. We know that that t has to be aspirated. Plates. We know that the p is released laterally because it's followed by o. Okay. But we also know that we have to aspirate it, and that o is devoiced because of the aspiration. So, we are showing allophones, we are showing all the realizations of the phonemes, some of the realizations. So we use brackets. This is an allophonic or narrow transcription. And we are showing this lateral release of the plosive through this diacritic, just to show how the air is released. And when the plosives, voiced or voiceless plosives, are followed by the nasal, they are released nasally. Do you happen to be free at midday? Happen, pun. What's going on there? Happen. So, p is articulated at the lips. It's bilabial. So the two lips are pressed together, right? But when the air is released, the soft palate is lowered. So the air goes out through the nose. You can perceive this by touching or by putting your fingers in front of your nostrils, in your nose. Say happen, and you'll see that the air is going out through the nose. So we say that the plosive has nasal release, and we use that diacritic as well. In this case, within the word, and at midday, at word boundary, at midday, the air goes out through the nose.